Welcome to the Freedom CEO podcast. It's about becoming the chief decision maker over your life in order to step into a life of freedom. From business, health, wealth, charity, and giving back to just doing life on your own terms. I am your host, Shay Imbidiata. I am an award-winning activist, change maker, and a multifaceted impact entrepreneur with over a decade of experience in business, philanthropy, and health and wellness. In this space, I'm going to be bringing you insights, not just from me, but from incredible thought leaders around the globe to help you start making decisions towards living a life of freedom so you can live a life you love. Are you ready, guys? Because we are going all in. Zarak Fatah is a renowned transformational life coach and founder of The Alive Life, providing personal and professional coaching to help individuals tap into their full potential. Zarak's current success in his chosen field is a very far cry from his 25-year career that created $14 million per annum with 300 employees. Zarak owned and operated 12 successful companies that included award-winning restaurants, bars, nightclubs, a spa, a hair salon, and music festivals. To say the least, this was an empire that he started from absolute zero. On Zarak's 40th birthday, he had a life-changing revelation that led to a complete 180-degree shift in his life, professionally, mentally, physically, energetically, spiritually, and even geographically, as he left his glamorous life as an entertainment mogul in Toronto and relocated to Nosara, Costa Rica to pursue a complete transformation. And now he's teaching his clients how to do the same. In my early 20s, I watched and went to multiple businesses that he had in Toronto. And today, I still get to watch this 180-degree change in business that has a completely different mission. Zarak Fatah, I'm so happy to have you on the Freedom CEO podcast. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to join you here. And
it's so fun we get to do this.
Yeah, absolutely.
So little like background and journey, you know, for some people maybe that don't know you, and even like my connection, you know, growing up in my like 20s, being that we're both like from Toronto, in the Toronto scene, you definitely were the king back in the day of, you know, restaurants and nightclubs. And I grew up having like my friends being like, oh yeah, Zark, which we're going to also talk about your name too today, because that's a powerful component, right? Sure. But it was, oh, my friend Zark. I'd be like, I don't know who the Zark guy is, you know? And I used to go into your places, whether it was the club or restaurants, and it really wasn't until you had shifted into maybe this transition, this life shift, which I want to go into, of course, as well. But that's where you and I really connected, was in this new chapter of your life. But I would love for you just to share a little bit of, you know, kind of your story, because it's pretty remarkable coming from $14 million a year in revenue, 300 employees, 12 businesses. Like there's a lot there. And then making this shift into what you call like solopreneur life. So take us back a little bit, and then let's talk about your shift.
Sure. Yeah. I like to say that I went from nightlife to light life. Yes. And in my previous career, I was in the nightlife and entertainment industry for 25 years, starting at the age of 18, started as a dancer, became a promoter, a dancer, then bartender, then promoter, then manager. And then eventually my friends and I saved enough money to open up our first restaurant in 2003, Blowfish Restaurant.
Yeah.
And then 2004, Century Room, 2005, Hammam Spa, 2006, Doku at the Cosmopolitan, 2007, it was Atelier, and it just went on. And for 15 years, I opened 12 companies. And as you mentioned, at our peak, we had 300 employees. We were doing 14 million a year in sales. And I created way more than I ever had imagined, you know, given that I'm a high school dropout from Scarborough, you know, who found nightlife at a young age. You know, I just found something I was really good at and I loved and just went all in. And that's the type of entrepreneur I am. You know, I find something I like, I really go all in, give it 110%. And it was an amazing career. You know, it provided me with a really, really luxurious, dynamic lifestyle, and got to meet a lot of amazing people. You know, traveled to well over 60 countries, and you know, it's been awesome. And it was very rewarding in many ways because I love to see people have fun. I love to help people celebrate life, and I, you know, enjoyed it for most of my career. And then it was towards kind of tail end when it was actually in around my 40th birthday where I just realized like I'd kind of achieved what I wanted to when I started promoting and opened my first venue. I never thought I would achieve this much in the nightlife and entertainment space. So I just kind of, I'd say, checked all the boxes and had really accomplished a lot of what I guess a single male entrepreneur would. And I knew that there were still some things in my life that I hadn't yet achieved, like finding my partner, getting married, having family, opening different businesses were rewarding in a different way, and just real financial security in the entertainment industry. You know, it's a very volatile, unpredictable business. So I knew that there was a different future, a different life I wanted to create. And I also knew that that previous version of me wasn't going to be the guy to make it happen. So that's when my big shift happened in around the age of 40, where I just knew like, okay, it's time for change. It's time to do something new, time to do something exciting that I'm really passionate about. And that's what really kicked off my deep dive into personal development, which put me onto the path that I'm on now. So that's a real like compressed version of my 25-year career in nightlife and entertainment, but kind of gives you an idea of what it was that I was up to.
So let me ask you, because in order to scale and grow and manage and run to the magnitude that you did, there's obviously a lot of discipline involved, and there is elements that anchor you into what like both you and I would say are like personal development practices. But when you think of your 40th birthday, we'll use that as kind of your benchmark to really stepping out of something and moving into the personal development space. When you look at like what it took to build what you did, what would you say are your, like, from a business standpoint, like the personal development fundamentals that you had there that, you know, maybe now today you still see that correlation, but now you're exercising it in a whole different area?
Yeah, I would say the fundamental, most important element or characteristic that an entrepreneur needs to have for success is integrity. You know, and I learned integrity at a young age through the gym. I learned about commitment, discipline, and putting the work in even when no one's watching. You know, choosing what's difficult over what's easy, and just choosing to do what's right for even though it can be uncomfortable, choosing to do what's right. So I attribute my health and my success really to just integrity and just really, like I said, committing to something, giving my word, and going all in 100%. And when I started the personal development journey, I realized that where my life wasn't working is where I was out of integrity. It's where I wasn't actually honoring my core values. Because if family, which is one of my core values, was and is so important to me, I can look back and see I was not honoring that value of family with full integrity, right? When it comes to my finances or came to even my career and passion to find something more purposeful, you know, I wasn't honoring those values with full integrity. So I think getting clear on really what is it you stand for? What are your 5 core values? And are you embodying those values with full integrity? And if not, then there's something to look at and ask yourself, why are you not? Because you're sabotaging your own success. If you're out of alignment with your values, you're going to feel resistance, you're going to procrastinate, and you're just going to waste time. Yeah.
And okay, so you make this shift. Was there, like, for you a moment where you just were like fed up and like you had this moment where you just knew that things needed to change? Because today you're a transformational life coach. Obviously on your 40th birthday, you were not. Right. Yeah. And so like, I think about, okay, yeah, you know, this is maybe not where I'm fully fulfilled, talking about being in alignment with like your core values and what you wanted in life.
Mm-hmm.
But oftentimes there's usually a moment where somebody says like, enough is enough. And this is why. And then it brings them into that new path.
Yeah, so there was about a year there where I had a foot in both worlds, where I was deep into the world of personal development, but I was still spending 3, 4 nights a week in nightlife and my restaurants. And there were nights where I would leave a landmark graduation night on a
Mm-hmm.
Tuesday at 10:30. I'd walk down King Street and walk into my club by 11, and I'm leaving a room full of 500, 600 people, high off the possibility of life and what they're creating, to walk into a room of people high off of drugs and alcohol. And
Yeah.
I was just so torn being between these two worlds. And I just knew, like, okay, I need to figure out my exit strategy. I need to really think about what is next for me. And that's when I started to think about, if I was going to leave this career, what would I do next? So I'm fortunate that I had some runway. I had some time to really think about, if I could design my dream job and create the life of my dreams, what would that look like? And I started to do my research and started to, explore what could I possibly create. And that's where I came up with the idea to host my first retreat. So it was really March 2018 when I hosted my first retreat in Costa Rica that I knew, like, okay, this is it. This is what I want to do, because I felt so much excitement and I felt that passion come back, and I saw the impact on my guests. I could see these humans transforming in front of me, and I knew, like, that's it. This is what I want to do. So in tapping into my purpose, I was able to cultivate that courage within myself to step into the unknown and try something completely different, because, I'm a nightlife guy. I'm a high school dropout, and now I'm going to be like a transformational retreat leader. Okay. I mean, sure.
I love it. I love that.
Yeah.
Okay. So you do your first retreat.
Mhm.
And at that point, were you already thinking like, this is going to become a full-blown business for me? Like, did you have that vision back then?
Well, with most things I've created in my life, I've never had a full business plan. I've never done projections and like charts of what this could look like. I've just always trusted my intuition, and seeing the results that that retreat had created with people, and just knowing how passionate and excited I am. First off, my human design is a manifester. So I'm
Mhm.
very good at creating, and I've had a lot of success in my career. So I'm also very confident that I'm smart enough, I'm resilient enough, and I have a lot of connections. And
Yes.
with those attributes, I can make anything happen. So for me, I felt so strongly about the retreat business, and I knew that I could be really good at it. And I knew that it's something that people really needed, because I knew I wasn't the only one going through this, inquiry of like, who am I? What do I want to do with my life? Like, because a lot of people, when I started to be open up and be vulnerable about my journey, a lot of people stepped forward and said, yeah, you know what? I'm going through the same thing. So I would say that in many ways, I've been a pioneer in whether it be the entertainment space or the wellness scene, because I've always trusted my intuition. When I left Toronto 5 years ago to pursue this new path, a lot of people thought I was crazy. A lot of people thought, you're leaving all of this here in Toronto to go host retreats in some dusty little town in the jungle? And I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah, that's what I'm going to do. And literally, like, people have now come up to me and they say, bro, I got to tell you, I thought you lost your freaking mind. I thought you had like drank way too much ayahuasca or something, because like we were wondering, what the hell are you doing? But now they get it, because now the same people who questioned me and were wondering if I had lost my mind are now coming to me and saying, hey, like, when's your next retreat? Or like, when's your next event? Or like, what do you charge for coaching? Because people are realizing that, all this stuff that we enjoy in Toronto or New York, LA, or any big city, it doesn't matter. If you don't have your mental health, your physical health, if you don't have deep, loving relationships in your life, you got nothing. And, if anything, the pandemic showed us how quick all of that could be taken away. And people have realized, okay, there's more to life than, the fancy penthouse or the expensive car or the whatever it may be. So for me, it was just knowing that I'm not alone. I know that I have the knowledge and the resources from my own personal development to share with people, because I hosted my first retreat, I think, about 3-4 years after I got into the world of personal development and working with coaches and going on retreats. So for me, I was just taking what I'd learned and what I had benefited from, and now offering it to people in a way that they would like it. I did it in my own style, renting beautiful villas, amazing chefs, fun dance parties. Like, I made personal development fun and sexy, and that's why the retreats got done so well. Yeah.
Okay. So like, even in just hearing you talk about this, right?
Yeah.
If you're not following Zarak, which we do need to come to your name, because you can tell, like, I struggle sometimes. I'm like calling him Zarak. And last year, Zarak came on Instagram and shared a beautiful story about what his real name is. And we are going to come to that. But if you're hearing kind of like, what? Sometimes she's like fumbling. It's still like, that's why.
A lot of friends struggle with it.
But if you're not following him, make sure to click in the show notes. We're going to be linking up everything there. And if you're watching, you have seen his handles on the screen. You land on your Instagram page. You've seen, I watch all of your retreats and what you post, and even just what you shared right now. Like, I can see it in my head, right? Like this tropical paradise, rustic luxury, personal development, the transformation impact. Like, it's inspiring and it sounds incredible. You went though from 300 employees, managers, upper management, and that's like a full-blown team to carry out a vision, to being a solopreneur in this new venture. And you make it look easy. You make it look flawless. And I will say, for some people, right, like, this is where we say that your network equals your net worth. And there is a lot of truth in that. So I think even as somebody who's maybe wanting to start a business, looking at who's in your circle and your contacts, and if you have nobody, recommend to start building that out, because that struggle is really real. And you do have that, I'm going to say, advantage point.
Absolutely.
But you worked for so many years to build up your sphere and build up your resources. But share with us the non-glamorous, the struggle or challenges you face going from, really, like I said, being rooted and held with an incredible team, multiple employees to carry out what you were doing, to now, like, I've got this powerful vision. The world needs it. And it's literally on my shoulders to do.
Yeah, for sure. Great question. So, the first thing I struggled with was imposter syndrome. That for me was the biggest one I had to overcome in the beginning. Because again, going from being a nightlife guy in a 25-year career, successful, but still very, very different industry. And, thinking I'm a high school dropout, like somebody's going to pay me to learn from me. So just getting over my own limiting beliefs and stories that I was telling myself was step number one to really take that on. In the beginning, I was the curator of my retreats. I wasn't the lead coach. Even though people were coming because of my experience and what I've been through, I wasn't actually coaching people directly. Maybe through my story and what I'd learned, I was inspiring them and they were learning something from that. But it was more so I was curating the event with the different coaches and facilitators, and I was just organizing everything. It was really the pandemic which kind of pushed me into coaching, because I knew, like, retreats are on hold and it's time to step it up. So I did my professional coach certification program with CTI, and that's when I became a professional coach in 2020. What I would say, going from being a serial entrepreneur with 300 staff, with managers, assistants, marketing directors, and all that, to going out on your own, you quickly realize what you were shit at. Sure. Because in my old role, all I had to do was come up with concepts, travel the world, network with celebrities and millionaires. And I had the glamorous job of just meeting people, coming up with ideas, being the visionary, bringing those ideas back home, reinterpreting it with our own flavor and style, and then creating something new and interesting in Toronto. But now it was like I had all these ideas, but I also had to handle all the research, all logistical planning, all the hiring, all the invoicing. I hate dealing with invoices and bookkeeping, dealing, like, I had to go from being just a visionary, being in my flow, doing what I love the most to taking everything on. And this is where I learned a lot about human design, because I now know where I excel and where I need to put my energy and my effort, because that's where I'm most valuable, and where I need to hire other people to do the tasks that drain my life force energy. Because as creative and ambitious as I am, if I have to do the things that don't align with my human design and that drain me, then it's going to take away from everything. So over the last, I would say 2 years, I've really identified what I excel at and what I'm, not so passionate or about or skilled with. So then I have a VA that deals with that and a junior coach. And I would say, when you're going out on your own, it's very important to know, like, okay, what do you love doing most about the business? And what can you delegate? What can you hand off? Because in the beginning, you're going to have to do a lot of it on your own. And it can be hard because it's not necessarily what excites you, but you need to know how to balance your time and balance your energy. A lot of us, when we start a business, we're putting in 14-hour days, and it's not healthy. And it's not actually serving us at our highest good, because, as you know, obviously everything is vibration and frequency. And when you're doing what you love, you're in that flow state, you are in that high vibrational frequency, and you have more power, you have more ability to create in that frequency. When you are doing the tasks that drain your life force, that have you feeling frustrated, have you feeling even scared or nervous or anxious, that is going to disempower you. So it's very important to identify what you don't like to do, and then break it up so that you're not doing 6 hours of what you don't like to do on any given day. Spread it out throughout the week and offset it with what you do love to do. And it doesn't necessarily have to be work related. It could be, okay, I'm going to do an hour and a half of accounting. That's it. That's it for the day. And then I'm going to take Samia to the beach, or then I'm going to go hit the gym, or then I'm going to go, do whatever it is, listen to my favorite song and dance around in my living room. I don't know. You got to know how to balance your flow and know what raises your vibration and what lowers it, and then manage that accordingly.
I think it's also a really interesting piece of advice of, you're actually giving yourself the reward for doing something that is that like trivial task, that whatever it is that you don't want to do. And so when you actually pair it with something that you do love, your brain gets rewired knowing, like, if I complete this efficiently enough, like get it done quicker versus procrastinating, because all the things we don't like to do, right? Like we procrastinate forever on it. But when you reward yourself with something that is in alignment with what you love to do, raising your vibration, like you said, your brain starts to rewire going, okay, well, if I finish this, then I'm going to get a reward, which sounds like a childlike state, right? Like it does, is like,
but it works.
But it works, right? Exactly.
Yeah, we need to celebrate and reward ourselves, of course. That's what keeps us excited and builds a momentum, right?
Totally. So I think that that's like a really good piece of advice, is like the things you don't like to do that need to get done, especially in the beginning when you don't have the revenue to offset maybe hiring out a VA to take on those things. It's like, pair it up with something that lights you up, and that's your reward,
And one thing to mention on that, like, you can get a VA for $10 an hour in the Philippines. My VA, she's amazing. She knows more about some parts of the coaching business than I do, so you just got to get creative, you get resourceful, and you got to explore your options. But first and foremost, you got to identify, okay, what do I not want to do? Because I like to tell my clients, there are $10 an hour tasks, $100 hour tasks, $1,000 hour tasks. As a CEO and founder, you do not do $10 an hour tasks. You should even not do $100 an hour tasks. You do the $1,000 an hour tasks and hire somebody for $10 an hour to do the $10 an hour task, 100%. Yeah.
My only exception to that rule is, and I'm sure you'll agree with it, is unless it brings you absolute joy. Like if it brings you joy, then you do it. But if not, everything that we've already just talked about, it's like, you got to hire it out. Like I always say, like the laundry thing, like for some people, they love being Monica from Friends and they love cleaning. They love doing the laundry. otherwise I hear people, where they're like, I just spent my whole day cleaning. And I'm like, that would have taken a cleaner like 3 hours or 4 hours, and it takes you 8 because you hate it.
Yeah.
And it's not bringing you joy, So, and to your point, you
But
should
where I would contradict that is, I value my time at about $800 an hour. Okay.
Yeah.
So if I have to do my laundry, or if I have to do just certain tasks, let's just say photo editing brings me joy. I love it.
That's it.
I love photo editing. I do. But if I spend 3 hours photo editing, that's potentially $2,400
Sure.
I'm losing. You know what I'm saying? So because when you're solopreneur, or you've got a couple of staff here and there, and you're really looking to grow your business, and you are going to put in 8-hour days, you got to make sure those 8-hour days are highly effective, and then use the other 4 hours of the day, or however long you have, depending on how you sleep, to do the things that bring you joy. But, it is important to really identify where to put your time and energy, especially in the early stages, because that's when you got to run the company lean, and that's when you got to be most effective. Yeah.
Totally.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let me ask you like a real tactical question, because I actually hear this a lot. Like, we're in an era, we live in like a time, I think, where it's really hard to find good people. There's a lot of people that don't want to work. And you just mentioned having a VA over in the Philippines. And I get asked a lot, like, well, where did you find like your VA, and do you like them? And so did you go through a company to find your VA? They'll probably not be listening to this, or maybe they will, I don't know. But like, you're happy with them? Like, where have you found success in locating VAs?
So, earlier on you mentioned network, right? And your network not only can teach you many things, but can also provide a lot of resources. So I'm a part of a men's group of 8 men who are all coaches. And within that men's group, any one of us could have a question, and we have 2 or 3 answers from them. So the VA I have is also the VA for one of the coaches in my men's group. And this is why she's so experienced, because she specializes in working with coaches as a VA. So, if you, regardless of what your industry is, I always tell someone who's looking to start a new business, or, break into a new industry, find the person who is doing what you want to do and get to know them, actually become their friend, offer them some value, and then you can learn from them how they do what they do, and you can, borrow whatever inspiration you need to, follow their steps to some degree, So I look at, thankfully, I'm friends with some very successful coaches, and I see the team that they have and how they structure their company and who does what. And even though I'm not there yet, I understand what the next steps are for me, And when you build your network and you surround yourself by people who are successful in the industry that you want to get into, you just are exposed to that information. You just meet the right people because you're hanging in the right circles.
Totally. Okay, let me ask you, as you're talking, this is like what's coming up for me. I'm thinking about Grant Cardone right now. Okay. And, for those who don't know him, kind of don't know how you don't know him, because most people know who he is these days, right? Somebody who he went on Undercover Billionaire, was given $100, took away his phone, no contacts, 90 days to make $1 million. Could he do it? Did the challenge, made the challenge. And you, in a much, I'm going to say, maybe more approachable way, I feel like you also share like that zone of genius that like he does, like, where you could, even if all your resources were gone, I believe that you would be able to be like, if I only had $1,000 or $100, even, we'll say, like full Grant Cardone, and like giving you 90 days, you could turn it into a multi-million-dollar business. And when you think of the current climate right now that we're in, and just following up on what you just shared, right? Like, of people like, this is what I would do if I was starting over again. Go meet somebody that is doing what you're doing. If I were to give you $100 and took away everything, and said, like, Zarak, go do this. Zarak, go do this. You know, what would you do right now?
Real estate development.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, but with $1,000.
Well, so yes, because I have the network and the resources to be able to put together renderings. I have a concept in mind. I have a network. I could start doing presentations. I could start receiving deposits. You know, I could definitely, And again, the reason I choose this is because I know a lot of people want to move to Costa Rica. I know a lot of people, their dream is to retire or at least move in the next few years to somewhere where they're closer to nature. Like, based on what the market is showing, like what is happening in the world, I know that that's a very viable business. You know, it's something people are asking. So that's the first thing that comes to mind for me, because my intuition is telling me that that's not only what's happening now, it's going to continue to happen in larger numbers.
So is this foreshadowing? Are you giving me insight as to maybe like the next chapter of your growth?
Oh, for sure. Absolutely. Yeah. Like, I moved to Costa Rica to get into, not necessarily get into development, but I knew when I moved to Costa Rica that, you know, I wanted to build my own community there. I knew that I was moving down there to build my own retreat center, to build my dream home, and then ultimately have other people join me in living this amazing lifestyle. And I've had, I think, probably 12 people who have come to my retreats who now own homes in Nosara or other parts of Costa Rica. You know, our friend Murray, my friend Rob Boyko, you know, several friends have invested because they come down there and they realize, oh my God, this is life. Like, these people aren't on vacation. These people live here. They've got their kids here.
Yeah.
This could be my life. Okay. Yeah, I want that. And I think people are getting so fed up with the crazy condo prices in cities and how expensive everything is. It's like, what are you getting for $2-3 million? You're not getting very much. You know, as you know, in Costa Rica, $2 or $3 million, you don't even need to spend that much. You know, like, you know, 1.5, and you've got a beautiful 3,000 square foot house, ocean view, guest casita, pool. Like, I mean, why not? But you got to be ready.
And even less than that, you know, like even less than that. Mine was under 500,000, and I have 180-degree oceanfront views. You know,
yeah, exactly.
It's like, I mean, you can't get that now. It's gone. The price went up a couple of years ago, but still, to your point, like if you have even under $1 million, you still have so much flexibility for quality of lifestyle.
Absolutely,
you know, within that price point. Yeah,
and the reason why I went right to real estate is because, for me, everything I've created has always been inspired by what am I missing? Like, what is, like, when I opened Blowfish, it's because I would go to Montreal, I'd go to New York, and they have these sexy, cool restaurants where people are eating delicious food, and there's a DJ and interesting cocktails and like mature, sexy crowd. I'm like, why don't we have this in Toronto? You know, so Blowfish was that. Blowfish was like one of the first restaurants in Toronto to ever have a DJ. Right now, of course, every restaurant has a DJ, but in 2003, it was new. When I created, you know, Hammam Spa, or, you know, even like, you know, I was doing my own series of fitness competitions at one point as well, because I saw a void in the market. I've always created projects from a place of what's missing, or how would I do this different? How would I do this better in my own way? So for me right now, I see what's going on in Toronto. I see what's going on a global scale with all the things that are happening and the unpredictability of, you know, life. And I know that people are wanting to exit this matrix. People are wanting to take their kids, move somewhere, be closer to in nature, be closer to like real food. They want to be in community. Like, this is what people are wanting. This is what I want. This is why I moved to Costa Rica. So again, I am taking a vision, an idea that inspires me, and I am going to create that project in the next few years, you know. And again, I've been asking questions, I've been researching, I've been checking out different areas. So I know enough to now actually make it happen. So if it was $100 or $1,000 I was given, I know what I would do. I know who I'd talk to. And I'm sure in 3 months, I could have $1 million in deposits. No problem.
I don't doubt you. That's why I said, like, as we're talking, I'm like, what's coming up for me is this parallel to like what Grant did. And I love that. And I think other people, I think people go, well, he's special, or there's something that he can do that I can't. And I mean, mindset is obviously a huge component of that. But I think just in the simplicity of your answer, it's like, well, yeah, like, why couldn't I do that? Like, and if he can, why not me?
You just got to be curious. You just got to do the research. And most importantly, you got to have a vision. You got to be able to like close your eyes, meditate, drop in, like really connect to that experience of what do you want to create and how does it feel? And if you imagine yourself 5 years from now and you're in that end scene, you've accomplished that vision that you had, who's standing next to you? What do you look like? What do you see when you look around? Can you tap into that future timeline that is there waiting for you? You just need to get off your ass, do your research, make some phone calls, get out there, have some conversations, and start speaking it into existence. Write it down, research, like create a Pinterest board, pull all the images you can that, inspire you for that vision that you want. Like you have to, like the process of manifestation is not just having an idea and then, chanting your affirmations every day. It's about visualizing it, feeling the emotional connection of the end experience. It's also about understanding who do you have to be to make that vision a reality? What habits do you need to drop? If you're watching 2 to 3 hours of Netflix a day, I'm telling you right now, you're never going to make it happen, because the millionaires and billionaires out there who are crushing it, they're not watching Netflix. What are they doing? They're getting up at 5, 6 in the morning. They're meditating. They're doing breath work. They've got a morning routine. They're very good with their time management. They're not wasting, energy doing things that are useless for them, so you really, again, going back to integrity, are you in alignment with that goal that you have? Every day, are you choosing from your values that are taking you in the direction of that beautiful vision that you have? Because if you don't, I'm sorry, but you may never get there. And if you do, it's going to take a long time. So it's really about being real with yourself and ask yourself, what am I willing to let go of? And what am I willing to step into that might be scary or uncomfortable, that's new for me, so that I can learn and grow and become that future version of myself that's living that epic life that I can visualize.
Oh, so good. So good. And this is why, like, I hear you, obviously, I follow you, but I hear you, and I'm actually like grateful for you following your intuition and stepping into the light work, that you are doing. And so today, for some people that might not know you, like, what is your mission in this space? Who are you wanting to work with? Because I know you've done co-ed retreats, but, sometimes I'm like, is he, like, people ask me, does he just work with men? So like, what is your vision right now for where you're at?
Yeah, thank you. So yes, it started with retreats, and the retreats have always been co-ed. But then when I got into coaching, that kind of took over. I host 2 to 3 retreats a year right now. And for the last 2 years, I've been working primarily one-to-one with men specifically, because men have trouble opening up. Men have trouble being vulnerable and sharing. And I know this because I was one of those men. And it's through being vulnerable and through sharing my journey that I've had the courage and the inspiration and the support to do all that I'm doing. So vulnerability has really turned into my own unique superpower. And in my coaching, I give men permission to be open up and share the things that they might not feel comfortable saying to their partner or even to their best friend. So for the last 2 years, I've been working with men, highly successful entrepreneurs who have done well in life, but they want to go from good to freaking spectacular. They know there's this new level, there's this next level of success and happiness in life that they haven't been able to tap into on their own. So it's been great working with those men, and I will continue to work with men. And I am now opening my practice up to women again as well, because I enjoy working with women. So some of my best friends are women. I actually have my best and closest friends are women. And I see what they're going through. I see the struggles and challenges they're dealing with. And my coaching career, for whatever reason, has naturally gravitated to work with a lot of realtors and of course, entrepreneurs. And I see the challenges that realtors are dealing with, both men and women. And my big mission is to help men and women be better fathers, mothers, husbands, and wives, because that's what the world needs right now. The world needs a tight, solid family unit, because I grew up in a family that was very dysfunctional, with two parents who slept in separate bedrooms, fought all the time. Communication wasn't very present growing up. And even though I wouldn't change a thing, and I love them dearly, and I'm grateful for all that they did and didn't teach me, I could see how if my parents had the tools that I have, my upbringing would have been very different. So my role, my mission is to really help men and women heal their trauma from the past, so they can fully show up for themselves, for their partners, for their kids, and to end this generational trauma and break the patterns that had been passed on from generation to generation. Because, you know, I am of an age where my dad didn't really communicate to me very much, because he grew up with a father who never talked to him. Because my grandfather grew up in a day and age where they were coming out of the war. It was all about food on the table, roof over the head, survival. That was it. So my father never had that emotional connection with his father. So my father didn't know how to emotionally connect with me. But it stops here. Like, I'm breaking that pattern, and I'm doing my inner work. I've taken numerous courses and trainings on how to communicate, because I want to make sure that when I have children, they never feel like they are not seen and heard. I want to make sure that my children, my wife, my friends, and people I love always know that they can come and talk to me, and that I'll be there to listen and listen to them, hear them, see them, and feel them. And I think that's what's really missing. A lot of people are just so emotionally disconnected from themselves that they don't even know how to connect with others. And until we heal that pain from the past, until we're willing to look at it and really feel it, to process it and release it, we are going to keep repeating those patterns over and over again, and ultimately pass those along to our children until we complete that cycle within ourselves.
Oh, so good. Like, if it was Sunday morning, I feel like we just went to church of some sort. You know, I like it so good.
That. Thank you.
And, you know, I think I talk about this a lot offline to girlfriends of mine. And, you know, it's not a surprise to anybody that typically women are more vulnerable and open with expressing feelings and emotions. Not necessarily great communication, and still, like, expressing your feelings can sometimes be kind of two different things. And as we know, a woman will say one thing, but she actually means something completely different, right? So, like, that's why I say that. But typically women, we are better at being emotional and telling you what we're feeling, and this vulnerability side. And a lot of men, as you know, you just shared even with your own family generationally, is keep it internal, deal with it inside. And a lot of men, as much as they want to be open with their partner, don't want to feel that their vulnerability is emasculating and also then therefore weak, because of how they want to be seen and how they also want their partner to also feel in that relationship. And I mean, you know, I have introduced a few of my girlfriends to you for their partners, saying, I know that this is going to be the life-changing component within your marriage, your relationship, and, like, as you even mentioned, as a father, like, to the children. Because when men can be in a container that is a safe space, and through your leadership, really, in your example of being vulnerable and saying both can exist at the same time. You can be vulnerable and you can still actually be a man. And actually, when you are more being true and real, which means you have to be vulnerable, you actually are standing into a stronger masculinity, in my personal opinion. And I very much, like, any women listening to this, like, if your partner, whether it's your spouse, boyfriend, fiance, whatever it is, does not have a community of men where there is this safe space, I highly encourage you to reach out, drop into the show notes, click the link, connect with, and we're going to go to your name right after this because I'm wanting to say this, but connect with you, because I think it is so important that when to have this container. So part of your vulnerability story, let's go into this first, and then we can also come back to this, right? let's talk about your name, because you showed up on Instagram one day saying PS, thousands of followers, and like to the multi-thousand that I know, my name's not actually Zark.
Yeah. So it was actually probably about 4 years ago that I had put up a post sharing what my real name was. And so first off, like, people call me Zark for many years because it was in around grade 3 that I had changed schools, and somehow my name had got shortened. Now, growing up in Scarborough, I dealt with racism, bullying, and getting picked on. I just didn't feel like I fit in. And, back in the 70s, a name like Zarak wasn't very common, so Canada wasn't as multicultural back then as it is now. So when I changed schools and somehow my name got shortened to Zark, I'm like, okay, well, Zark sounds like Mark. Dark. Bark. Easier to say. Zark. Okay, I don't have to correct people, because people would say Zarak, they'd say Zarak. They would totally butcher my name. And I felt very awkward having to correct them all the time. So for many years, I went by Zark, and that was just easy for people to say. And then, years. So as I got deeper into personal development, I would say as I became more of myself, and authenticity is a very, very important value for me. I didn't feel like I'm Zark anymore. Like, Zark is almost like that previous version of me, the nightlife guy, the guy who had to project a certain image, the guy who had to change his name to fit in. I don't want to change my name to fit in. I will teach you how to say my name. And like many of my other friends, they struggle with it, even though it's not that difficult. They're just so used to calling me Zark. So that I put up a post and I shared with people, because it wasn't just about me changing my name or going back to my original name. It was about me reclaiming my power, reclaiming my authenticity, and just saying, like, I'm not going to accommodate you by changing my name and disempowering myself because it's uncomfortable or inconvenient. My name is Zarak, and I will work with you for you to learn how to say it over and over again until you get it right, because I don't even resonate with Zark anymore. It is such a different power in the name, from Zarak to Zark, and I actually only found out about a year ago, and I don't know why I never looked into this before, but Zarak actually means golden.
Wow.
And I think that's there's something very powerful to that as well. So, how I tell people to say it, it's like, the store Zara.
Zara, yeah. Zara, yeah.
Zara. Now add a K to that.
Zarak, right? Am I saying it wrong still?
Actually,
you're like, yeah, you are.
It's close enough. It's Zarak.
Zarak.
That's it.
Zarak.
So it's Zarak Fatah.
Fatah. Yeah.
Zarak
Fatah I've got. That I'm good with.
Okay.
I think then we maybe saying it together, Zarak Fatah. Zarak Fatah. I know, but that's right.
And that's it, Yeah, and to be honest, I screw up your name sometimes too. Not Shay, but Individiata. I call you Individa. So
I mean, both were just wrong. So that's
Invidiata. Yeah, Invidiata. Invidiata.
There you go.
There you go. We're even. All right. So, and to anybody out there, it's funny. Like, there was a guy who joined my group coaching program, and we're on a Zoom call, and he's, like, my name's Nick Dougal. I'm like, bro, you're Indian. Your first name is not Nick. And I'm sure he's going to watch this and he's going to have a laugh, because I called him out. I'm like, your name's not Nick. And I'm like, what's your real name? He's like, it's Guggen. I'm like, okay, Guggen. Nice to meet you, Guggen. He's like, see, but you know how to say it. You're brown. You get it. I'm like, yeah, but the thing is, if you go by Nick, you're not Nick. And every time you introduce yourself as Nick, you're disempowering yourself. So, there's guys out there named Jazz Deep that go by Jazz, or Harpinder that call themselves Harry, or like, many people, from different cultures come to Canada and they change their name to try to accommodate, to try to fit in. I know some people who have had to change their name on the resume because they were scared they wouldn't get a job if their name was Mohammed, so they changed it to Michael or something, and yes, we do live in a world where there is prejudice and there is some bias, of course. However, your name has power. Your name is who you are. Of course, the name is just a label, but if you have to change your name because you want to fit in, you're disempowering yourself, and I'm so proud of my name, and I enjoy introducing myself as Zarak, and and it's just been part of my journey of coming back to myself, just becoming, just allowing myself to be the most authentic version of me. And there's a quote, I think Eckhart Tolle says it. It's like, we spend half our life trying to become someone and the other half trying to get back to who we once were. And I'm definitely at that point where I'm working on my traumas, my experiences, whatever it is that I've been through in my life that have caused me to not be the truest form of myself. So I like to say that I'm peeling back the layers, layer by layer, one at a time, until all there's left is love and light. Because we come into this world just pure love and light, but then through our upbringing, through our experiences, through school, all the external influences, we start to believe that we are not love and light. And then we start to believe we're the opposite of that. And that's where people get lost, right?
It's so true.
Yeah.
It's so true. And I mean, you probably don't know this about me, but it won't surprise you. My first name being Shay is unique and is not like growing up in Oakville and going, my own community where it was like, there were so many Jessicas and like Tina or Linda, like these easy names. And as a kid, it would be the similar. People would be like, what's your name? I'm like, Shay. And they're like, what? And it would, as a kid, you also see the expression like, what? Yeah. And so I'm like, well, what's wrong with my name? And like, it was in grade 5, actually, that my best friend, Jessica, I was like, I'm done with my name. And I loved Full House and I loved Uncle Joey. And I was more, and this won't surprise you either, because I'm like so strong in my masculine. I was more of a tomboy back then, So I was like, I just want to be called Joey. And so she would go around. Yeah, Joey. Literally, because I loved Uncle Joey on Full House. I was like, random. I'm going by Joey. And my mom heard it one day, like Jessica calling me this. And she's like, what? Who is Joey? I'm like, I don't like my name, Mom. Like, people don't like, they think it's weird, whatever. And recently I was speaking at a women's summit, and it was one of the she did the hot seat questions. And she was like, if you could change your name, what would you change it to? I was like, nothing. Like, Shay, like everything you just said, it's like, it is your power. It's your unique factor. Sure. And I discovered that, thankfully, like in my late teens. I was like, my name is so cool. It's badass. It stands out. I don't need a last name. Same with you. You don't need a last name, right? Like, it's strong enough on its own. And so I loved when you came out and shared your story, and that was part 1. But I want to go back to the vulnerability piece, because you shared a follow-up video that was even more vulnerable. Like, you were so taken away with emotion and the outpouring of love and response from people that, guys, this man showed up on Instagram, not crying, but you were emotional. You were like weeping. And there's not a lot of men that would do that. Yeah.
And yes, thank you. I appreciate the acknowledgement. And it's not easy to do that, because in your mind, the narrative, don't be weak, men don't cry, don't be a pussy, like no one wants to hear your shit. All those things that we hear growing up, I know that I have a certain amount of influence, and people follow me, they watch me, and I know that men admire what I've done in my life with the clubs, the restaurants, the cars, the girls, all that, like, I get it. And I also want men to know, like, you can have all of that. You can have the success, the money, the clothes, the watches, and all the fancy stuff. And you can be emotional, and you can be connected, and you can be sensitive and vulnerable, because there's a reason why men die sooner than women. Men die earlier than women. And men make up 80% of suicides in the world. And a big component, a big category of those male suicides are over the age of 40. And that's because men have been suppressing their pain. They haven't been expressing themselves, sharing, asking for help. So they've been holding on to it and pushing it down, bearing it. Keep working, keep busy, keep shopping, keep traveling. Let's not think about it. But you can only do that for so long, because again, that pain, those emotions, that's energy, and that's low vibrational energy. And you push that down inside you, it doesn't go away. It just stays within you, and it festers, and it's going to show up as disease. It's going to show up as depression, suicide, and ultimately it could show up as suicide or any other illness. And this is what is killing men. And this is why I will lead by example, and I will be open and vulnerable because first off, I really love who I've become. I really love the life I've created, and I wake up in the mirror. I wake up in the morning, I look in the mirror, and I'm proud of who I am. And it's taken me a long time to get there. But when you can love yourself and you can accept yourself with all your flaws just as you are, you don't give a shit what other people think about you anymore. It doesn't matter. So I know that, yeah, maybe some people watch that post where I was emotional, and somebody might say, oh, what a loser, what a pussy, what a wimp, whatever. But you know what? For every one person that might say that, there's 100 people who are watching me and connecting and relating to what I'm saying. And that's why I do it. That's why I'm vulnerable, because I can be, because I can lead by example and let other men know, like, look, it's not weak to show emotion. It's not unmanly to express yourself and ask for help, because if you don't, you're literally taking years off your life, and that is why I'm really committed to working with men. And one of the things I didn't mention before, but part of the reason why I switched to working with men is one of my new clients, we had only been working together for about 5 weeks, took his own life. And unfortunately, it was too little too late. He was in a pretty deep depressive state, in and out of it beyond my awareness. And had we started working together sooner, I feel he would have had a very different life, a different outcome. But again, because he felt very alone, very isolated, he just had so much internal pain that what he thought his only solution was to end his life. And I made a commitment, vow to myself that I would never, ever let that happen again, under my watch. So, for all the men out there who are holding on to pain, who are holding on to something that you're ready to let go of, there are men's groups, there are communities, there are coaches, there are programs you could be a part of where you can say whatever you want. No one's going to judge you. No one's going to think any less of you for sharing your shit, because the truth is we've all got shit to share, just some of us are more open to doing so.
Yeah. Well, and it comes down to what we think will separate us by being vulnerable and sharing. It's actually what unites us.
Absolutely.
And like what we actually are afraid of losing, our strength, power, feeling weak, the longer you stay withholding and not stepping into being vulnerable and sharing, that's actually where it becomes that greater risk that you actually will become that which you are afraid to become, right? And this doesn't, of course, mean like you go around and share it with every single person. No, like this is an intentional container, an intentional space where you have men like yourself that are also leading other men through this. And I can tell you from my own experience, like with people that I have introduced you to, that it has been life-changing in their marriage. And for years, I've been saying there's this pattern. I can see it as an outsider. And I'm telling you, the missing link is that your husband does not have a group of men where he can go and show up. And it's not locker room talk. This is very different, right? Like I can show up and go, I'm a business owner and I hate that I'm not making as much money as I should for my family. And therefore it makes me feel like, and I can't express that to my wife, to my partner, whatever. And so it's been the game changer. And so like the word that's coming up for me, even in this is like, and what I want to, it's a perfect kind of segue is I think we're in very challenging times, right? Like in the world in general, the economy. When you think of community, it's so important. And then when you think of business, entrepreneurs, I'm a realtor. You like talking to realtors.
Yeah.
And we all have that ability to move from surviving to thriving. And you have an awesome mastermind. You're going to be doing an event coming up in 2024. So let's move into that and share a little more about about what you're creating.
Yeah. So, me being the natural promoter that I am, as I said, with my retreats, it started off by, I want to bring together all the people that were most influential for me, that made the biggest impact. And I want to share these with my guests in Costa Rica or Bali. Right. And
Yeah.
very much like, okay, so I realize not everybody can hop on a plane and come away to Costa Rica with me for a week. But I also know that there's an abundance of knowledge and wisdom and information that I have access to that's going to help people to thrive in life in every way possible. Because again, I know what it's like to make a lot of money and have a lot of nice stuff. Doesn't mean I was happy. I know what it's like to be healthy and strong. I know what it's like to have loving relationships. I know what it's like to have adventure and play. And that's what living an alive life really is. It means you get to enjoy all aspects of life and to their fullest. But a lot of entrepreneurs and realtors, 70% of their time is put into work, is put into sales, clients, showings, lead generation, blah, 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 all that stuff. And then you're trying to fit the rest of your life into 30%. That just doesn't work. So you're going to have an imbalance in life. And even the realtors who are doing really well, they're putting 70 to 80% of their time into work, So if you're not doing well, you're putting a lot into work. If you're really doing well, you're putting a lot into work. So where is the balance, right? So the intention of the Thrive Summit, again, because I like to throw parties and I like to bring good people together, my intention is to create a one-day event where you're going to learn about health optimization, about biohacking and life longevity. You're going to learn about nutrition and what to eat to take care of your body. You're going to learn mindfulness practices like meditation, breath work, journaling. You're going to learn about mindset, how to shift your beliefs, how to let go of those old stories, and everything from marketing and branding, speaking from an authentic place, to how to invest your money. Like the intention of the Thrive Summit is to give the crowd enough information about various parts of life so that they can have some new tools and some new resources to apply to their life in the parts where they know, like, yeah, they're not thriving in all areas of life like they would. So thankfully, the amazing coaches and realtor friends who are very successful and people who are in business and doing well and have achieved this balance in life are going to be part of the summit, sharing information with the group, so that they can take away something new, something interesting for them that they can then apply to their life. And hopefully that will be the beginning or continuation of their own personal and professional development, so that, again, they could feel safe, they could feel stable, they could show up for their kids at the dinner table, being present, not on their phone, checking emails under the table because they're trying to close a deal. Like a lot of the people I work with, they say, like, I hate that I come home and I'm with my family, but I'm not even with them. Mentally, I'm somewhere else. So I want to help alleviate that for entrepreneurs and realtors. And to be honest, anybody who's in a business where you kind of like you eat what you kill, and you're in a business where you're always chasing the clock and you're grinding away, I want to take people away from this grind and hustle mentality and get them into a state of flow and attraction. Because I'm telling you, it is possible that when you are doing less and being more of yourself, you can have the life you want. But most people, they're doing, and they're not being themselves. They're not honoring, what truly lights them up. So as a result, they're not living their life to their fullest. So that's the Thrive Summit. That's going to happen in January. We're looking at about third week of January, and early January as well. I'm going to be launching a 3-month group coaching program, which again is rooted in the concept of thriving in life, in all aspects of life. So a lot of what I spoke about today, including time management, conscious communication, money mindset, emotional energy. There's a lot of things that I've learned during my personal development journey that I'll be teaching to the group over the 3 months in the Thrive program. So again, I'm just committed to helping men and women be the best moms and dads, husbands and wives that they can, because, I believe that's really the foundation for success.
I love it. Well, I'm excited for it. I'm going to be there for sure.
Yeah. Yes.
And if this resonates with you, especially at the beginning of a year, there's not a better time to get really clear on what you want in life and start, right? So this is going to be a perfect time of the year. Click on the link in the show notes, get connected on Zarak's website on the waiting list. I'm sure you're going to be dropping all of that out.
Yeah.
Before I let you go, I have one final question. You're on the Freedom CEO podcast.
Mm-hmm.
I think everybody can tell for like all the obvious reasons, right? And when I want to shift the question though to when you think about being the CEO of your life,
Mm-hmm.
and the CEO and many other things in businesses, but when you think about being the CEO of your life, how has taking ownership over your decisions brought you freedom?
So I know that I'm fully responsible for creating my life, which means I'm also fully responsible for any actions I take that are not in alignment. So that responsibility causes me to be accountable, causes me to continuously choose integrity. I can't blame anyone else. If my business succeeds or if my business fails, it's all on me. I know that. I'm not delusional and trying to blame anyone else or external circumstances, So for me, taking ownership and being responsible, it's very empowering because I see it as I can create anything I want with my career. I can create anything I want in my life because I'm willing to work hard enough. I'm willing to do the research that's necessary, and I'm willing to step into the unknown time and time again, just trusting myself, my intuition, and just trusting that God wants me to win. That I'm on a mission to change millions of lives and I'm doing God's work. I know that. And that's what inspires me each and every day to just keep going.
Oh, so good. I love that. It's so powerful.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing. Thank you for coming on.
My pleasure.
I'm so grateful for your time. And probably next year, we're going to have you back on and we'll do a follow-up maybe to like
make it happen for sure.
Yeah,
I love that. Yeah, thank you everybody for watching. Please reach out, send me a DM on Instagram or check out my website, join my newsletter. And yeah, I'd love to stay in touch and answer any questions you might have. So hit me up.
Awesome.
Thanks for tuning into the Freedom CEO podcast. If you got value out of today's show, I would love for you to leave a review as it will help my show reach other people as well. You know what to do. Download this episode, click the like and subscribe button. If you feel like spreading more love, hop over to Instagram and share today's show in your stories. Remember to tag Shane Vidiata and the Freedom CEO. My DMs are always open, so drop me a line. I'd love to connect. Until next time, keep owning your decisions to live a life of freedom. Live a life you love.